Welcome back. Last week's U.S. intelligence report on Iran has apparently resulted in a kinder, gentler Iranian president, at least in his tone towards Washington. President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad says there is now an opportunity to resolve U.S.-Iranian differences. Unlike the harsh anti-Western rhetoric that he's become known for, the Iranian president called the intelligence report a step forward. He also appealed to the U.S. to drop its push for a third round of sanctions against Iran. The report found that Iran ended a nuclear weapons program 4 years ago. However, Washington is brushing off Ahmadinejad's conciliatory remarks.
Iran, we believe Iran had a secret military weapons program.
The U.S. is still demanding that Iran suspend its uranium enrichment program. Michael Shank is the government relations advisor at George Mason University's Institute for Conflict Analysis and Resolution for the past decade. He also worked as an analyst advisor to the UN. Thanks for joining us tonight. What do you make of this new Iranian president? Do you think that there is an opportunity here for some real and true diplomacy between Canada and, or not Canada rather, the United States and Iran? Can they change their relationship?
Marcia, I think you're absolutely right. There is an opportunity for diplomacy. That's why the Iraq National Security Advisor, the Foreign Minister of Iraq, as well as the Gulf Cooperation Council states have all called for diplomacy. The opportunity is now for the Bush administration to reach out a diplomatic hand to Iran, and we hope that he does that.
Well, do you think he will seize that? That's my next question. I mean, we heard him say he still considers Iran a threat.
Well, all the conditions are there for safe diplomacy. It's unprecedented, I think, the conditions for this kind of diplomatic gesture. Over the weekend in Bahrain at a security summit, annual security summit, Secretary of Defense Robert Gates had ramped up the rhetoric, which is unfortunate. But I think the Defense Department and the Bush administration is being isolated in the U.S. Congress is showing support for diplomacy. The news agencies that once showed support for an Iraq war are now showing support for diplomacy. So all the conditions are there. We just need the Defense Department and the Bush administration to take that step.
But does the president then not run the risk of having, for lack of a better way to put it, a bit of egg on his face? Isn't there a bit of a political conundrum there for him in terms of his image if he does turn around and decide to start talking to Ahmadinejad?
Well, that's a good question, and I think perhaps the route to take for the Defense Department and the Bush administration is the route that I think they're planning to take, which next week the security advisors for the United States, Iran, and Iraq will meet to talk about Iraq and security in Iraq. And the Defense Department is very pleased with Iran's cooperation in Iraq. That first step will hopefully lead towards ambassadorial relations with Iran, but the first step is through the prism or the frame of Iraq. And I think if they show the kind of diplomacy they showed North Korea with Ambassador Chris Hill reaching out a diplomatic hand to North Korea, sitting down with them with extensive negotiations, that's the kind of diplomacy that Iran is seeking. We've done it before with North Korea when North Korea had a nuclear weapons program. We can do it again with Iran, and I think it will happen indirectly through Iraq.
Michael Shank, come back and talk to us again about this very interesting subject. Thanks for joining us tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.